Hello, everybody. Alrighty, let's get started. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Sorry, let me try that. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our viewers across the globe. First of all, let me thank you for joining us for Binance Talks Security, the first session of our new Binance Talks series. Every month, we'll discuss one of blockchain's most pressing topics with some of the best industry experts. We're incredibly excited to share with you our new format, and we've got some great guests to kick off the series. My name is Tanisha, Global Social Media Specialist at Binance, and your host today. Joining us today are 7 fantastic guest speakers. For our conversation on cold and hot wallets, we have Luis Osegada, Trust Wallets Director of Engineering, and Ruben Mer, Engrave's co-founder and CEO. Discussing security and reporting are Nils Anderson-Royd, Binance's Deputy Head of Financial Crime Compliance, Aruna Costa, VP of Government Solutions at Elliptic, and Zahra Jafar, Superintendent of the Crypto Assets Market at the Central Bank of Bahrain. And for our final discussion on seed phrases, we'll have Udi Wardheimer as well as OX Quit join us to share their opinions. In addition to this value-packed session on security, we'll be running a host of giveaways and competitions. Keep in mind hashtag Binance Talks, though, because you'll need it later. Let's take a look. In our first competition, we're giving away $100 worth of crypto to 10 lucky winners tuned into the session. Simply use the hashtag Binance Talks to tweet out your key learnings from the event. So you might want to pay attention. As I mentioned, we'll pick 10 of your favorite tweets or threads to win $100 of crypto each, so get creative. For our second giveaway, and again with hashtag Binance Talks, being our first online event series, we'd love to know how you're tuning in today. All you need to do is retweet the tweet and reply to our upcoming tweet with a picture of your setup showing the event. And we'll pick 10 of the best to win Binance merch. We'll let you know later in the show when the tweet is live and also provide you with a link, so not to worry there. We'll also be running a crypto box giveaway valued at 4,000 USD with a quiz from Binance Academy after our panels. For this one, please note that you'll need to be watching on Binance Live and logged into your Binance account to participate. With our giveaways covered, let's take a look at the bigger security picture. Security is a large topic to cover, but it's one of the most important. I'm sure we all realize that, well, first, the services, tools, and infrastructure we all use are only as good as the level of security they can offer. And second, while security has improved over the life of blockchain, it's still not uncommon for hacks, exploits, and security breaches to take place. For mainstream adoption, it's a sticking point. If users don't feel safe handling crypto, they simply won't do it. So it's important to us as increased adoption depends on a respectable level of security that the average consumer is used to. And from an exchange's perspective, users also depend on infrastructure providers to offer the highest level of security. Everyone from the dApp developer to users to large centralized exchanges has a role to play here in maintaining security. It doesn't just fall on one person's shoulders in crypto, and that's why we're here today. Let's briefly cover the schedule. To begin, we'll have our first discussion on cold versus hot wallets. After that, we'll dive into security and reporting, as well as how prevention is often the best cure, and I'm sure you could agree. For our final talk of the session, we'll look into seed phrases and explore their role in the future of crypto security. Finally, to round everything off, we'll have our Crypto Box Binance Academy giveaway. So, without further ado, let's kick off the first session. We've invited Luis Osegada, Trust Wallet's Director of Engineering, and Ruben Mer, Engrave's co-founder and CEO, to get to the bottom of what you need to know when it comes to cold and hot wallets. Beyond what they are, we're really looking to discover how you can best use both of these in your crypto workflow. We all want to stay as secure as possible without sacrificing utility. Let's take a look then at the topic and welcome Louis and Ruben to the show. Welcome, you guys. Hello. Louis, would you like to kick us off with a short introduction about yourself?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Luis. Currently at TrustWallet supporting the engineering team here. Previously, I was at Coinbase, and previously before that, been working on both infrastructure, platform, and security teams at various companies. Most of my background is in security and in a slash of engineering along the way.
Fantastic. Well, it's great meeting you and definitely look forward to diving into this topic. Ruben, how about yourself? The audience would love to know more about who you are and what you're all about.
Hey everyone, yeah, I'm actually trying to get my logo on screen. Great to meet you all. And my name is Ruben. I'm co-founder and CEO of Engrave. We've been around for about the last 4 or 5 years. Before that, I was a tech entrepreneur and strategy consultant. And I do want to emphasize that we are here to empower you to safeguard your wealth. And happy to talk about that today.
Awesome. Well, it's great meeting you both. We'd love to have you guys on the show. Let's dive into it, shall we? These questions are really for the both of you. So to get everyone up to speed, would you briefly be able to explain the difference between a hot and cold wallet, ground level?
Sure. You want me to go? Should I go first, Ruben?
You can do the hot wallet part, I guess.
The hot wallet part? Yeah, so I think I'll briefly introduce kind of both concepts, and I'll let Ruben dive deeper into the cold wallet aspect. But the short of it is a hot wallet is defined as something, it's always online, it's always directly connected to the internet. That's the most simple, basic term. Whereas a cold wallet is normally, it's not directly connected to the internet. It's usually offline, and the accessibility is a little bit different. I think the only thing I'll add there is the primary roles of these wallets are all the same. You want to protect the private key. And the way these keys are accessible makes it different for different attack vectors, which we can discuss later. But that's the general difference between a hot and cold wallet.
Yeah, indeed. I think the easiest way to summarize it in a few words is hot is online, cold is offline. The cold aspect of cold wallets that's so important is the most important part of your security in crypto is your private keys. And obviously that starts with how do you make them, how do you manage them and keep them safe, and how do you actually sign transactions without ever exposing them. And so with the cold wallet, you can do all of these things offline. So you can do them in your home by yourself without ever needing to connect your private keys to the outer world. And that, of course, adds an extreme level of security. And I think we will probably cover it. But of course, there comes a level where you have convenience and security. And those are typically looking at trade-offs. And for user, it's therefore interesting to know the difference a bit between hot, cold exchanges and so on, and know what to choose from for which specific context.
And you guys both made some great points. And I think ground level, we can say or agree on the difference of the two is online versus offline. But that brings me to my next point. Who needs one? Usually they're for different purposes and for different maybe levels of, crypto consumers.
Right. And I think I'll just like pull on the thread that Ruben has started, right? It just depends on these trade-offs that a user is making. So the way I would think of it is kind of the user should ask basic questions like, what are their habits? How do they actually engage in crypto? What are they actually doing in crypto, what activities are they doing? What are their expectations in terms of security, in terms of speed and velocity, accessibility? Trying to figure out their risk tolerance. There's a lot of huge benefits in terms of security when it comes to a cold wallet. Those trade-offs are being made at the hot wallet level for the effort of convenience. So like if you have high risk tolerance, hot wallets are really nice for these. There's budgetary concerns. And so sometimes you need to make a decision whether you want to invest in a hardware wallet, at what point do you invest? And I think the other one is both cold wallets and hot wallets have different interactions and different flows. These things are not standardized. We're still trying to work through these like common patterns. So it's also a level of how comfortable you feel working with this new technology, getting familiar with this technology. And so really, depending on what your use case, will make a decision on should you have a cold wallet, a hot wallet, or both. In my opinion, like I think people tend to have both for the different use cases.
Yep. No, indeed. And I think a few analogies might also make sense. And so if you say you just start dabbling into crypto, you have a very small portfolio, then of course it doesn't yet make necessarily too much sense to put all of that offline. You can think about it a bit as from the perspective of, okay, I have a bank account. I will always have a current account with some money on it that I want to use on a regular basis. I want to go to a shop. I want to be able to pay in real time. And on the other end, you also have your savings. And nobody wants to walk around with their savings on their phone. So ideally, you keep those somewhere safer, somewhere more long-term stored, and then you go into a cold wallet where you know that nobody can actually get ever access to your keys, and to a level of security that's much more advanced. That said, there is always evolution in the space. And even right now, me, Luis, we are working together on also having an integration between a hot wallet and a cold wallet, so that you can actually have your cold keys shared with your hot wallet, and it also adds security to the current model of, let's say, an online solution.
Okay, so as a user, I know how I want to interact with the space. I understand my portfolio allocation in terms of short versus long-term investments. What are now my options to look at a hot versus cold wallet, and how do I go about picking one?
I could start off with this one. So I think, again, I not to give like just general statements, but it really depends, I think, what you're doing. So if you're just send and receive tokens, staking, like depends on like your level of activity, right? So, and if you're doing a long-term investment, I think hot wallet, cold wallets depends on some of the functionality. So there's USBs. You can use like a USB, and that could be very, very easy to use with something like a desktop. But generally, like there's a constraint there when you're dealing with like mobile devices, right? So if you're really a mobile first user and you don't have a desktop, or you don't use your desktop very often, you'll run into constraints with the USB. Then you have things like QR codes, which are really nice. You see Engrave doing this and standardizing the QR code, and this creates a really nice pattern. It's also a very repeatable pattern. And this makes it also really convenient for users. You have all the things like NFC and Bluetooth as well. Then you have form factors. So depending on how portable and mobile you want to be with your hardware wallet, some hardware wallets are really small and light. Some of them are a little bit bigger, but they have like nice screens, nice UI experience. It allows you to use it almost like a phablet, which is it's really nice, depending on how you want to use your cold wallet. And so I think those are some of the considerations you want to think about when you're thinking about cold storage. There's a nice way of thinking if you can have these like really small credit cards and then really light to carry like a short amount of funds to make payments on the go, but they're not as convenient as a cold wallet that has a UI, has a nice screen on it, and it's really easy to move funds just with QR codes.
Good point. Thank you.
Yeah. I think my perspective on it is that exchanges are interesting, let's say, for doing real-time trades and having a lot of liquidity. Once you go to hot wallets, it might be more about interacting with the world of DeFi. So you have your own keys and you interact with dApps and anything you can think of, which is not possible with an exchange. And of course, then you will get into the category of cold wallets, where ideally the first thing you do with it is just keep your crypto safe. But of course, technologies evolve. And what's so interesting now is that even with, let's say, before Engrave came along, it was mostly about wallets that were USB based, so still connected. You have some sort of evolution there towards Bluetooth, so still a connected technology. Engrave with QR codes, it's really no more connections. So the true connectionless aspect of crypto, which is crucial if you want to keep your crypto keys safe. And the beauty then about the things that are happening right now, let's say you have your Trust wallet, you have your zero hardware wallet of Engrave. You can literally, with QR codes, share, first of all, your private keys, create offline with Trust wallet. Trust wallet will be more secure because of that, and is still the perfect place to do your DeFi interactions. But you can actually interact with dApps, with any kind of DeFi things, such as token swaps or staking, by signing those transactions, those orders you do fully offline with your hardware device. And what's also really nice is the convenience part actually improves because you are literally using QR codes one way to ask for a signature, and then the other way to give the signature to the hot wallet, and then the hot wallet can push it to the blockchain. So in a sense, even the cooperation between a trust wallet and an engrave means that suddenly let's say hot wallets are even more secure, and cold wallets are actually no longer that sturdy and inconvenient, and they also get a lot of benefit in terms of speed and how easy it becomes to interact with the outside world. And of course, QR codes are a technology that everybody already uses today. It's convenient, it's fast, it's transparent. You can scan a QR code with any kind of device you have and see what am I actually going to sign, which is, I would say, a big downside of USB and Bluetooth wallets, because you typically don't exactly know what am I signing. It's sort of a black box, and that's also solved with QR codes.
Right. And I think you guys made some great points in terms of both areas that you're working on, so to speak, is making the user experience a little bit more convenient, accessible, and familiar, which I think is very important. But Ruben, you mentioned a few times about dApps and DeFi. From a cold wallet perspective, isn't it difficult to use with dApps, or how can I, as the average user, get started with that or more familiar?
Yeah, so for sure, hot wallet is where you typically start interacting with dApps. And of course, as I mentioned, technologies evolve. So the way that we look at that is ideally you have a hardware wallet that you use more often than let's say used to be the case, because the main use case of a cold wallet used to be put your crypto on it, keep it offline, keep it safe, put it away in a cupboard. But if you think about the aspect of QR codes, in 1-2 interactions, which is basically super fast, and we all know how fast QR codes are, you can actually suddenly interact on a regular basis, and it will not take you that much more time than, let's say, to sign a transaction directly from your hot wallet. So it's actually faster, it's more secure, it's more transparent in terms of security for yourself. You see better what you sign. And yeah, so it's just constantly evolving, and this is sort of the direction we're going into. So what Engrave is doing today is we are standardizing the QR code so that any hot wallet can actually sort of SDK immediately with us, so that suddenly it's easy to integrate with Engrave.
Right.
Users get better keys, the hot wallets get more secure, and Engrave, of course, gets access to more users. And you can do that for DeFi, such as, it's all evolving, but if you want to do staking, like delegated staking, if you want to do a token swap, you can do all of those things. The only thing you need to do is get a signature request and sign it. And that's basically it. And so you can perfectly do that today with a hardware wallet.
Perfect. And I think you've debunked the idea that a cold wallet is only for storage. So you can actually interact with this mechanism within the world of DeFi. But how does that now affect security when you are using your cold wallet to interact with these spaces, or does it affect security?
The idea is that you actually improve on security from the hot wallet side, because your keys are fully offline and the QR codes are, let's say, a sort of interaction method that you cannot attack as an online user, as an online attacker. Why? A USB is an actual connection. A Bluetooth is an actual connection. A QR code is basically, I show you a picture, I throw it over a wall, you look at it and you say, I'm going to sign it with cryptography. So the signature that comes out of it cannot be traced back to the private key. That's how blockchain works. And so when you have the signature, you just throw it over the wall again. I look at that picture and I can see, as the blockchain itself, this is a valid transaction, I will accept it. If the transaction signature was changed somewhere between those 2 points, then the blockchain knows this is not a valid transaction, so I won't accept it. So it means that in the end, the QR codes cannot be attacked because they're air-gapped. So you have a wall, offline wall, where you can't really do anything. And yeah, that really is sort of the game-changing part of it. It increases the peace of mind, and it's faster.
Sorry, Ruben, I think you're breaking up a little bit. Louis, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to add to the points that he made?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I'll cover like the dApps is always is always a huge concern in hot wallets and cold wallets. There's a slightly different constraints and security concerns. And so this is where you start seeing like trust wallets starting to add protections for the users and like being able to scan smart contracts, scan these interactions, so people are more familiar with like, are they running into a threat or an attack, or are their wallets going to be drained? Similar drains, wallets being drained could also happen on cold wallets. So it's really important for the user to be familiar with how that can happen. So you end up having, you end up doing these blind transactions, or you blind signing specifically. And so it's important for users to be aware of what they're enabling to enable some of these features, right? So this is something where some like the hot wallets are able to warn you, but also on the mobile side, users can click buttons. You have to be very careful about what you're enabling, because once you enable and give a smart contract the right permissions, then you can get your funds drained just as easily on a cold wallet than on a hot wallet. So users should be careful with that. The other thing to be careful about from a security standpoint is how you're finding dApps. So it's also, this is something a hot or cold wallet can't protect you from. So users should be very cautious about which dApps their wallet is connecting to. Make sure they're trusted, they're not coming from malicious sources. So generally being able to connect to a trusted wallet, bookmarking it and using it, and then go into the exact same source every single time is also important. Just additional features that are within the scope of cold and hot wallets.
That's great. And I think what I gathered from the both of you, and hopefully the viewers at home as well, is that just like in the real world, you wouldn't go sign a contract and sign your life away without understanding what's within that contract. And as you're interacting, whether it's from a hot or cold perspective in terms of wallets, you need to be very clear on what you're now signing off of or what you're interacting with.
Yep.
I think you guys have done a great job with those clear distinctions. Let's talk about solutions for a second. What do both Trust Wallet and Ngrave offer in terms of your respective areas? I know you guys talked briefly about an integration. Can you tell us a little bit more about the two offerings?
I can start with Trust Wallet.
Sure.
So essentially, so Trust Wallet, we offer a multi-chain wallet. We offer over 70 chains at the moment. We offer NFTs for we support 10 different types of NFTs. We support native staking. We also offer some swapping services, access to dApps. So we have like a full featured ecosystem within Trust Wallet. Our goal here is to be able to give users access to crypto ecosystem. So we're not very opinionated in terms of, there's hundreds of blockchains, and we are selective about which blockchains come onto platform, but generally we're promoting the entire ecosystem. And the other thing that we're really focused on is this concept of non-custodial. So keeping, your keys, not your crypto. So giving users access and ownership of their keys is also critical. This is a very in parallel to Ngrave as well. And our goal here is to continue to improve the ecosystem, the user experience. And so as we kind of project forward, you're starting to see this partnerships with Ngrave in terms of QR codes and making these things a little bit easier and a more seamless user experience. And so as Trust Wallet continues to evolve and improve, not only just our access to crypto, the security around crypto, but just generally the onboarding and the user experience. That's the overall general product for us.
Awesome. Thanks, Louis. And Ruben, how about yourself? Where can...
Yeah. So I would say Ngrave comes from our own deep experiences with being hacked. So one of my co-founders was in his previous project back in 2017, was hacked for about 40,000 Ethereum. So something like that really puts you on the tip of your toes when it comes to security awareness. And so that also actually led us to start with a principle. Our first principle at Ngrave is we will never compromise on your security. And that means that, and that's actually interesting because it's a point we haven't mentioned yet. We're talking about hot wallets, we're talking about cold wallets, but the essence of the game in crypto is that you are totally allowed to lose your hot wallet. You can lose your cold wallet device. The one thing you're never allowed to lose is your key. Mm-hmm. So obviously you have to create your key somewhere, but once you have it, then your key is the most important thing. You can lose your Ngrave Zero hardware wallet. You just buy a new one. You enter that key and all your wallets will be restored. And so what we did is we actually started with the backup. We thought about three very important questions. So the first one is, what if my piece of paper, because today everybody has paper wallets, what if I lose my piece of paper, I lose my crypto, I lose my key? So we built an indestructible backup with Graphene. That's our backup solution. And then we asked ourselves, let's say somebody finds this backup. What happens then? Then they actually find my 24 words, or maybe they find two parts. They found one part of 12 words of the 24 words in total, and they have information to basically use and steal my key. So with Graphene, we actually went a step further, and we made the backup encrypted, so that if you find my Graphene, you actually don't find my key just yet. And then, of course, the last part is, what if I lose my backup, I lose my crypto. So Graphene is the first recoverable backup in the industry. And so we start with basically the premise of, if you are serious about your crypto, you start with the backup. And that means you start with Graphene. And then you go into the part of the hardware wallet where, first of all, you create your keys, and then you manage your keys offline. And the beauty about our Zero hardware wallet there is that, first of all, it's 100% offline. It uses QR codes to interact with the outside world. Second, it is a touchscreen device. So whenever you, let's say, scan a QR code, and you can see what's inside because you have an actual screen. So you see what you sign. And then thirdly, and that's what we are most proud of, if you think about normal hardware wallets, they will always rely on the chip inside the device called a secure element that creates your key, that is used to sign transactions, and that basically protects your key from being stolen from. So if I find your hardware wallet, I have to break open your chip. With Engrave, it's a real fortress. So we have the chip inside a device, you have layers of anti-tampering physically, and then you actually have a secure operating system. And that operating system is certified for the high security certification in the world, so EAL7. If you look at Apple Pay, at credit cards, at passports, these are all EAL5 secure. Zero is the only financial product in the world today with the EAL7. And it is a really good underlining of our first promise, that we will never compromise on your security.
Got it.
So it's really...
Sorry, keep going, sorry.
I just wanted to conclude that it's really an end-to-end solution. You have a backup, you have a hardware wallet, you have our mobile application to interact with the outside world. So end-to-end.
Right. And I mean, from a hot and cold perspective, it's great to hear that, you know, the community and those watching have quality solutions that make their crypto experience easier, more convenient, and safer. And I think really, you know, as a lot of people say, we're still so early in the industry. So for viewers knowing how to interact with the space in a safe manner, I think that's a great first step, at least for our conversation today. And with those distinctions and now learning how to interact and with what solutions we have available, I think it's safe to wrap up this first session. Thank you, Louis and Ruben, for joining us for our first guest on Binance Talks. It's been a pleasure having you guys on the show and learning how we can prioritize security and choosing what's really right for us. Yeah, I'll give you guys a chance to.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Good seeing you, Ruben.
Absolutely.
Likewise. Yeah, for me, I think the only thing I want to add is we really believe in the security education. And actually, right now, we are doing sort of a security self-audit. So if you would go to our website, you can actually do a quick survey yourself to see how safe you really are and what you have to do in your specific case to be more safe.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you, Ruben, and we appreciate the information. Alrighty, with our first discussion of the event done, we still have two more to look at. Let's briefly recap them again. Next, we'll take a look at security and reporting, followed by a session on seed phrases and a final quiz from Binance Academy. But before we move on, let's go back to one of our Twitter competitions. As mentioned earlier, our tweet is now live for our setup giveaway. We'd love to see how you're tuning in today and with your setup. You have in order to win an exclusive merch prize. Make sure to scan the QR code that's displayed on the screen and head straight to Twitter. All you need to do is retweet and reply to the tweet with a picture of your setup showing the event, and we'll pick 10 of the best to win Binance merch. Next on the agenda, we're going to take a deeper look at security and reporting, as I mentioned previously. When we think of security, prevention is really the best cure. However, security work doesn't just stop there. It also takes place after the fact and helps us build stronger in the future. We all have a role to play, from centralized exchanges to users, builders, regulators, and law enforcement. Each and every one of us can look at how we report possible security issues and breaches, as well as how we work with agencies and regulators to bolster security. Here to discuss the topic today are Nils Anderson-Royd, Binance's Deputy Head of Financial Crime Compliance, Aruna Costa, VP of Government Solutions at Elliptic, and Zahra Jafar, Superintendent of the Crypto Assets Market at the Central Bank of Bahrain. Let me be the first to welcome them to Binance Talks and allow them to introduce themselves. Nils, do you want to kick us off with a short introduction?
Yeah, thanks very much. Nils Anderson-Royd, you pronounced it pretty well. I'm the Deputy Head of Financial Crimes Compliance and former law enforcement as well. I used to work at Europol and Dutch National Police before I joined the company.
Great to have you here. Thank you. Aruna, would you like to go next with an introduction?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you very much for having me join the panel today. So my name is Aruna Costa and I'm from Elliptic, which is a provider of blockchain analytics solutions for both crypto compliance as also crypto intelligence for law enforcement and government. I lead Elliptic's government response. So I work very closely with government agencies to support investigation and enforcement and also the kind of collaboration between public and private sector. My background before joining Elliptic was over a decade in the world of traditional forensic investigations and financial crime prevention. And during my time at Elliptic, I've worked across different parts of the industry. So working very closely with both regulators, law enforcement, as well as crypto businesses and traditional financial institutions.
Great to have you on board and definitely looking forward to your insights. Thank you. Zahra, how about yourself?
Hello, everyone, and thanks for having me. I work with the Central Bank of Bahrain in the Crypto Assets Market Department, and before that, I work in external auditing.
Wonderful. With your guys' resumes, I'm sure we're up for a really good discussion here. So why not kick it off, Zahra? This first question is actually for yourself. Regulation has been quite a hot topic lately, and I'm sure our viewers today are curious to hear your perspective on this. Could you explain how regulation, in your experience, has helped improve security for our crypto users?
Yes, I believe regulations play a major role in shaping the crypto assets market by setting the controls that are required to be adopted by the crypto assets provider. So if I talk about our experience and the Central Bank of Bahrain, we have adopted a risk-based approach in developing our framework by defining the potential risk and the controls that are required to mitigate such risk. And considering the nature of the crypto assets, we consider the cybersecurity risk as maybe the most important and critical risk that need to be addressed properly by the provider. That's why our framework has a comprehensive requirement in this regard. And just to give you examples about the type of requirements that we have, first, we have to ensure that the crypto assets providers have effective policies and controls. And also they are required to appoint a competent chief information security officer. And this appointment is subject to the CBP prior approval just to assess the applicant competency in terms of experience, qualification, and so on. And of course, there are some reporting requirements, and we conduct regular on-site inspection to assess the infrastructure and the system of the crypto assets providers. And another important aspect, as mentioned in the previous panel, is the security of the private keys, the wallet in terms of generation, storage, and the backup of the private keys, and the management of the wallet in general.
Wonderful. And I know you mentioned briefly on security events and task force or executive appointment in that regard. I think this brings me to my next point, maybe for Nils. Can you tell us a little bit about the state on the ground for law enforcement officials dealing with these security events? Are there new agencies or task force that the community should be aware of?
Yeah, I think over the past years, more and more agencies are looking into cybercrime and also cryptocurrency-related crimes as well. If you look at sort of like the whole landscape in the different countries, then some countries are doing better than others. Some countries are still in its infancy. They're still trying to learn how to deal with crime, which also makes it difficult for users if you live in a country like that, of course. But overall, it's getting better and better. We've also seen task forces around certain types of crime. For example, around scams, there's a very active React task force in the US, which is looking a lot in scam cases. We have several kinds of projects related to ransomware and also even around child sexual abuse material. So there's basically task forces related to all kinds of different types of crime. What we do as a company, and what we're seeing as a company when we engage with law enforcement, sort of tries to look into cryptocurrency crimes, but doesn't really know how to investigate it. Then we also try to help them out. So we actually have a law enforcement training program where we actually try to teach law enforcement how we work, but also how they can better look into these types of crimes. And then we also engage with private sector parties to help them assist with tooling, provide them with tooling, give them demos and trial licenses, so they can sort of build from there. So overall, it is improving. But there is definitely still room for improvement in many different countries.
That's great. And I think as users or to our users, our community, we often say education is one of the most important things as you interact with the space. But, oftentimes we miss the fact that, hey, our traditional law enforcement officials or other task force also need to be educated on the space. And I'm glad to hear that we're boots on the ground assisting with that. Speaking of development, how have you, Aruna, seen blockchain security develop over the past years when it comes to your experience in compliance?
Yeah, I think there's definitely been a lot of different areas of development, but I think one of the biggest and particularly topical areas is probably in relation to sanctions and what we've seen happening there. I think the volume of sanctions last year was pretty high. The US Department of Treasury's OFAC unit added, I think it was over 200 different crypto addresses to their sanctions list. And that was over a range of different entities and individuals, but also slightly more arguably controversial designations as well. So there was Tornado Cash Mixer, where we had the first designation against a mixer last year. But I think what's interesting as well is that this year is following a similar vein in terms of sanctions coming out, but also just leveraging different types of legislation, different mandates to make that happen. So I think it was just a couple of weeks ago, US legislation where they leveraged a slightly different to mandate in order to cease transactions with Bitslato as well. And I think it has shown from a development perspective how quickly blockchain analytics can get incorporated and use that data across their systems, and it allows businesses to respond much more quickly, and how we can respond and react to identified security issues as an industry. And I think that's particularly important, right? I think there's a lot more complexity when it comes to money laundering and financial crime in the crypto space. There's a lot of funds moving across and between different assets and different blockchains as well. And it's been an area that the industry has had to respond to. And being able to make sure that we're able to look at that in a very holistic way, so very agnostic when it comes to what assets and what chains have been used by criminals.
Got it. And shifting from getting ahead of, reacting to maybe prevention. And, the three of you have all noted third-party clients or service providers so far, clearly indicating that it's not just one entity tackling and looking at these things. So Aruna, back to yourself again, as a bridge between third-party clients, service providers, and government or regulators, where have you seen the most effective cooperation in security issue prevention?
So I think cooperation is so critical to everything that we do. And I think, again, there's just a really recent example, even just from this week, right? So Elliptic, as a sort of blockchain analytics provider, we sit sort of at the center across the different parts of the crypto ecosystem. And as you said, working with a mixture of private sector, government regulators, and so on. And for us, it's about sharing the knowledge and the insight that we have across those different parts and bringing people together across the table. And so just this week, we actually worked with Binance and other exchanges to freeze accounts that contained, I think it was about $1.4 million of crypto that had been stolen by the North Korean Lazarus group last June. And that's a situation where, Elliptic's intelligence from our investigations tools allowed us to, trace those funds through the Tornado Cash Mixer last year. But then after those stayed dormant for a period of time, we then saw them being funneled through various complex chains of transactions to exchanges, and we were able to notify, Binance and others. And it's that swift response in return from exchanges that allows us to then, as a community, essentially successfully suspend and free, accounts and freeze funds as well. So I think working together to detect and freeze in real time, it's a great example of how we can work together across the industry.
That's wonderful, and I think you've mentioned quite a lot about reporting, but maybe from an institutional perspective and working together on the back end. How can I, as a user, or the viewers watching this, and this question is for the table, how can people work to report these possible security issues? I know something is up. What are my next steps? And anybody feel free to jump in on an answer.
Well, if it stays quiet, I'll start. No, I mean, when it comes to users from Binance, and obviously they can reach out to our customer service. That's always the easiest. Also, if you're not a user, then of course you can also reach out to us. But that's more like alerting it, and then they will escalate it to the right department. When it's about serious issues, and personally, I think you can reach out to anyone in the space. And the good thing about the security network, when it comes to, for example, cryptocurrency exchanges and industry partners as well, that's a very close network. There's actually a lot of people that used to work in law enforcement, sort of on the other side as well. Mm-hmm. So we can also very quickly escalate these kind of things back and forth. We have quite a good security team. Of course, they can't do anything on their own, so we also rely on other commercial tools as well. But we do investigate it on our end. We take very quick action on our end as well. And if there's like a large hack which impacts multiple customers or multiple companies or institutions or whatever, I think in the past year we have shown that there's possibility to take very quick action with some large incidents as well. So I think in the end, just reach out to as soon as possible to industry, and of course, like I mentioned before, if you fell victim to some kind of hack, some kind of scam, then also reach out to your local law enforcement, because there's only so much you can do as an industry. We have a team of very experienced former law enforcement investigators that know how to look into blockchain and to trace transactions, sort of like what Aruna just described. And we're doing it from our end as well, and take action where we can. But if we then, for example, with stolen funds need to return it to victims, then we definitely need to have law enforcement involved as well, because they have the ability to, for example, seize funds and return to the victims. So it's basically working together and alert the right, on one hand, the right companies, but also your local law enforcement.
Right. Thanks for the insights, Nils. Would anybody like to add on top of those comments?
Yeah, I want to shed light on the reporting requirement for the crypto assets provider. So as preventive measures, crypto assets provider are required to submit at least semi-annually a vulnerability assessment and penetration testing, which is required to be conducted by an independent auditor. And in case of cyber security incident or outage incidents, they are required to notify the CBB immediately and submit like a preliminary report, and later submit a detailed analysis for the root causes, how they responded to the incident, and what are the actions that they will take in order to prevent the reoccurrence of the same. So this is from the provider side, but from the user side, users can report to the CBB, specifically the Consumer Protection Unit within the CBB, any incident or issues that they face with the licensed crypto provider. And for general cyber security crime or incident, they can also report to the Financial Intelligence Unit.
Wonderful. So it seems like whether it's locally within Bahrain or from a global perspective, there are several different avenues that a user can go to, whether it is local or simply just trying to get a hold of somebody on Twitter to alert something, or a key POC or point of contact. Thank you for those insights, Zahra. Aruna, would you like to add on to these two comments, or?
Well, no, I think they've both Niels and Zahra have covered that really well. I think the only other thing I would just give as perspective, obviously for Elliptic, we're working not so much directly with the end users, but sort of facilitating and supporting teams like those that Niels and Zahra represent. And I think one of the things that I see on my side is also with increased reporting also comes increased data and how to manage that effectively. And I think being able to use both the data and the reporting together, increasingly looking at that more proactively, I think allows us as an industry to start shifting away from just a reactive response to a preventative response so that we can start identifying patterns of behavior. And I think it's one of the great things, obviously, with the transparency in crypto and of the blockchain is that, we don't have to be just reliant on the reporting itself, but that reporting remains really, really critical to bring those two pieces together so that we can identify potential concerns and security concerns in the future.
Wonderful. And I guess that's the name of the game, is prevention is really the best cure. So the more we can start getting ahead of these things, tracking them, monitoring, and developing next steps from there, I think the better off the industry may be. And for everyone as well, and expanding on the lines of these practical tips for the viewers, what do you guys recommend for viewers to stay safe while interacting with this world of blockchain tech and digital assets? It's sometimes a lot. So yeah, well, what do you guys recommend?
I'm happy to jump in first on this one a little bit, and I'm sure others will have more to add. And we've talked about it a little bit already, but education and educating yourself, I think, is a really, really important pillar of that. And again, just to take a recent example and some of the things we see on our side, obviously we've had the 2 devastating earthquakes this month affecting Turkey and Syria, and we've had a number of digital asset exchanges and fundraising initiatives that have raised some fantastic amounts of money to help those people affected. But when, that contribution from a crypto fundraising perspective can be really significant, it can also create a risk of exploitation from illicit actors with fake donation scams and things like that. And it's something that we saw in the context of Russia's invasion of Ukraine last year as well. And I think that what users need to think about is how can they be cautious of things like scam donation campaigns in this instance that are making their rounds on social media. So just some practical things, perhaps for those that might be listening and they're looking to make a donation, have a look at, if it's a Twitter account, has that Twitter account just been started on the same day as, in this instance, the earthquake, or was it active before, but they suddenly changed their name? It's not a guarantee that it's a scam, but there's certainly some indications there. And looking at the history of the account, you don't have to have paid for tools to be able to look at this. You can have a look at a wallet and use information that's freely available and see, do transactions go back much further in time? And if so, it is a bit of an indication that wallet hasn't just been set up for the purposes of receiving donations. So again, I think just something for users to be aware of, and in terms of how they can try and verify legitimacy.
Absolutely. And I think, Aruna, to your point, we often say do your own research, and it goes past our head. But really, the fact of the matter is those, few minutes or hours of research that you've done initially can really save you a lot of, hurt and time later on. So great points. Thank you. Niels, Zahra, anything you'd like to add in terms of practical tips for our viewers?
Yeah, well, you mentioned do your own research, but indeed it is extremely important to do it. And because it's blockchain, you can do a large part of that yourself. There's open source blockchain tooling. And if you sort of understand how a transaction works, then you can also check these kind of things. Of course, you can also use blockchain or crypto without having to know the intricacies about how a transaction flows on the blockchain and your open source blockchain explorer, but then you still need to be able to make some kind of assessment whether or not an address is part of a scam or it's a legitimate address. What we're trying to do, I'm not sure if you're going to mention it later as well, but we have the Binance Academy website. There's a lot of information about other types of scams as well, because of course it's not just donation type scams, but we also see a lot of romance scams right now, so-called picture scams too. And if you sort of understand how these scammers, how these criminals work, then you can also recognize it easier. I mean, if you're on, for example, a social media website and you're getting approached by a boy or a girl, and they're slowly convincing you to invest money in that amazing investments scheme, at some point you should notice that maybe there's something wrong with that. and then stop and even better report it to law enforcement if you already have some kind of donation addresses or some kind of investment scam addresses as well. But you need to be able to know the right triggers and then at least stop that communication too. So we have a lot of information on our website as well. On top of that, we also collaborated with law enforcement in specific types of campaigns where users can also reach out to local law enforcement directly, because that's another thing that's super important. But sort of like the catchphrase, do your own research. It captures it all. That's the most important thing, definitely.
Right. And thanks for those insights, Nils. I know you mentioned that we have a lot of great resource on Binance Academy, which is, absolutely true. And what I will say for the viewers at home is, if you have any questions or suggestions for content that, the Binance team can put on global socials that will help yourself or somebody that you know within the community when it comes from a security perspective or safe practices, let us know in the comments, and we'll absolutely be taking a look because, again, we want to do what we can together to make it a safer space for everyone. Zahra, anything you'd like to add for practical tips for our viewers?
I agree with Nils and Aruna that education is the key secret to be secured while dealing in crypto assets. And there are, some simple tips that if the user do or implement, but they can make a difference. For example, if you activate the multi-factor authentication, these are just like simple tips, but it can make a difference.
Absolutely. And Zahra, you're the first one, I think, on the call so far to mention MFA or multi-factor authentication, which is a great point. So yeah, I appreciate the insight. I think we appreciate the three of you joining us today, Zahra, Aruna, Nils, for your fantastic insights when it comes to security. Getting your guys' opinion from all sides of the spectrum really helps balance and offer a rounded view of the topic. So yeah, we appreciate you joining you guys our chat today, the first Binance Talks on security.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Alrighty, and for our viewers at home, please don't forget that we're also running 2 giveaways today. Make sure to check our Twitter for more details, and may the best tweets win. Next up, we've got a fantastic topic that's integral to security and actually isn't talked about too often. We've mentioned it so far on the event. It's seed phrases. And they're a cornerstone of crypto, but are they optimal? And are they here to stay for the long run? We've invited Udi Wardemeyer and OXQuit to shine a light on what the future of security looks like when it comes to seed phrases. And make sure to stay tuned as we'll be wrapping up the conversation with the $4,000 crypto box giveaway. Let's get it started. Please help me welcome Udi and Quit to the show. Could you please both introduce yourselves to our viewers?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. My name is Udi. I've been, I've been involved, especially around Bitcoin, for probably like around 10 years now. I've helped a lot of people to onboard to Bitcoin for the first time. I've seen a lot of people struggling with their first wallet and seed phrases. So I have a lot of opinions on that. Also working in the very, very fresh space of ordinals and Bitcoin NFTs with Taproot Wizards, but that's for a different discussion.
Fantastic. Great to have you, Udi, and look forward to discussing more on seed phrases. How about yourself, Quit?
Hey guys, I'm a Solidity developer. I've been in the space for about 10 years. I think that seed phrases have a lot of room for improvement, but I do think that at the moment they're the best option we've got. But of course, open to hear Udi's thoughts on the matter. Generally, I think that crypto UX has a long way to go. At the moment, it's not beginner friendly, and every wave of adoption that we see, each bull market that we see, the most common thing is that the newbies that come in experience a lot of pain. So definitely up for making that better.
Perfect. I think it's going to make for a great discussion today. And let me kick us off with our first question, and it's really for the both of you. Quit, you've offered your insights briefly, but what are your guys' thoughts on the relevancy and need for seed phrases?
Yeah, so people who maybe follow me on social media, maybe have seen that I have some strong opinions on seed phrases. And the first thing that I should probably make clear is that I don't think seed phrases are bad for everyone. I think that they're a good tool for power users and experts, is what I would say, that want like full control and understand exactly how their crypto works, and are okay with managing the risks that are involved with that. And I think that maybe it's possible that a lot of the people who are listening to us right now, being interested in a stream about crypto security, are getting close to that spectrum of being power users, and maybe seed phrases are a good option for them. But I'm more interested in the general public, and the vast amount of new people who have been using Web3 and crypto in the last few years. I think many of them are not power users at all, and I think they don't want to be. And the thing about seed phrases, while they do give you a lot of control, they're also very unintuitive for people who are not cryptography experts, who do not understand keys very well. They're not very similar to anything else that people are used to dealing with, and they're very unforgiving. So if you make a mistake, you're done. You make a mistake, you lost your crypto, it's over. There's really nothing that you can do, and no one can help you. So this combination of being very unintuitive and very unforgiving is, I think, very difficult for the masses. It's very difficult for the general public. And as we're seeing a lot of people, for example, getting into NFTs, who have a more creative and artistic background, they're not computer experts. This just might not be the best fit for many of them. By the way, I know a lot of computer experts and a lot of software developers that made mistakes with their seed phrases. We technical people are not safe from mistakes either. Famously, a Bitcoin core developer who's been working on Bitcoin, the Bitcoin code base, for more than 10 years. His name is Luke. He famously lost access to his entire stash of Bitcoin recently, and a few weeks ago, because of some mismanagement of private keys. It wasn't seed phrases specifically, but was a similar sort of mismanagement of keys. So it can really happen to anyone, unless you really, really understand all of the things that could happen to you. I think that seed phrases were kind of designed at a time where the way people approached and used crypto was mostly, they would buy some coins on an exchange. 10 years ago, that's when seed phrases were invented, right? So they would buy some coins on exchange, withdraw them, hold them for the long term, hoping that over time they will increase in value. And I'm sure that a lot of people still use crypto in this way, but we also now have a ton of people that interact with crypto and self-custody daily, right? So every single day they trade with NFTs using a self-custody wallet. They maybe trade on DeFi and do some, lending and borrowing and so on. And they do all of that with a self-custody wallet. Because they interface with crypto every single day, it opens them up to many more opportunities to make mistakes.
Yes.
And we see a lot of phishing attacks and stuff like that. So I just think that seed phrases might not be the best fit to the way that people use crypto today.
And I think you mentioned this earlier in a different way with the recent loss of Bitcoin, but complacency is probably one of the biggest security issues that we don't talk about frequently. So for the both of you as well now, what new solutions should we be moving to instead of seed phrases then, and what do they look like now?
Right. So, first of all, it's early, right? Early in the sense that it is only in the last year or two that we've seen such a big influx of users who are not technical into crypto. So I think people are still figuring it out. I don't necessarily have like one recommendation that would fit everyone, but some some tools that I saw that I think are very promising for at least for the future are their wallets, like for example Argent, Linen, Zengo, or some examples of wallets that do not show the key to the end users. So the end users does hold the key. It is self-custody, but they never show it to the user. They have alternative methods for backup and recovery that do not show the seed phrases to the user. The issue with showing a seed phrase to the user is that it just opens them up again to making mistakes. You know, the most popular ones, we've heard of a ton of people, inputting their seed phrase on a fake website and having their coins stolen that way. Maybe they're promised some NFT airdrop. Maybe they're promised some, very good trade. So they go to the computer, they type in the seed phrase because the website asked for it, and they don't understand that they shouldn't be putting it in. If we avoid showing them the seed phrase in the first place, then we save them from being able to make that mistake. And in order to do that, like the goal of the seed phrase is to allow users to make backup for their key. So in order to not show the user a seed phrase, we need to have a different method for doing backup and recovery. And those wallets are trying to do that using, we don't have to get into the technical details, but they're using stuff like multi-sig technology behind the scenes, biometric identification behind the scenes. But the point is, they do not involve the users with the technicalities of how it works. They simply give the user a very simple user interface and take care of everything else relating to backup and recovery behind the scenes.
Great point, Sudi. Thank you. And Quit, how about yourself? What's your perspective on this?
Yeah, so I think at the core, seed phrases are a way to safely store a whole bunch of private keys at the same time, right? So they're definitely a step up from, say, writing down the private key to each wallet that you own and then importing those to MetaMask or whatever. And then I think that we can take it steps forward, but I think if we do obfuscate seed phrases similar to how seed phrases obfuscate private keys, we have to make sure that we do that in a secure way. So Udi mentioned biometrics. That's always been a scary one for me, because if you basically link someone's seed phrase to, say, their thumb, then all of a sudden it's something that you can't leave at home. And maybe that's okay for the majority of users, and power users can still go back to using seed phrases. But then you have this whole new attack vector where if crypto does gain mass adoption, and you can kind of guess that any person on the street probably owns a little bit of crypto, then you have these like street crime robberies where you can have your wallets stolen any given day. So I think that whatever we do move towards, we need to keep that in mind and say, like, sure, we want the UX to be great. We want things to be easy for everybody, but we also want them to be able to secure their keys, because that's what crypto has been about from the beginning. Right? You are your own bank. You're in charge of your own security, and so we need to give people the ability to maximize that security. You'd never walk around with your bank account in your pocket, right? So
And Quit, you made a good point there. You are your own bank, and that's how this whole thing really started, is having custody or control over your funds. And it sounds from the both of you, Udi, Quit, that right now we're at seed phrases. So if we accept that the masses that are currently in the industry have to deal with those seed phrases, what are best practices for our viewers?
I think mostly the people that lose their seed phrases, or the people that get fished for seed phrases, it's typically because they don't understand how they work. So like, for instance, I made my wallets, my primary wallets years ago, right? And I haven't looked at my seed phrase since then. So I've never been tempted to give it to anybody, because it's not easily accessible to me, which means that it's not easily accessible to anybody else either. So I think that we need to make that the norm. We should make that kind of like a prerequisite for joining the space, is, hey, if you're going to jump in here, you need to know that your seed phrase needs to be stored securely and offline. So I always encourage people to get hardware wallets, whether it be a Ledger or a Trezor or Grid Plus or what have you, right? And people, the mistake that people make when they do that is they'll grab a hardware wallet, they'll import the seed phrase that they use to create the MetaMask or whatever they're currently using, and then they continue about their day, right? And they still use, you've put a hot wallet on your hardware wallet and you're still using it's still a hot wallet. You haven't changed anything. So I think that the number one thing that a hardware wallet lets you do is create a seed phrase offline and then never put it online.
Right.
And if people are following that very basic principle, at least I think it seems basic, then we'll see a lot less of these types of phishing schemes.
Right. Great points. And I think previously we talked about doing your due diligence before interacting with the space. But from that point on, it's, while interacting with your mechanisms and to the end point of transaction signing or whatever have you. And I think it's important for viewers to really take that in and consider it, as it's been a common theme throughout this chat so far. Udi, do you have anything to offer based on Quit's suggestions there?
Yeah, I think those are great suggestions. And really the main issue that I see with seed phrases is that most people will usually not understand how kind of critical and dangerous they could be, right? Like if you're a new user, if you're not someone who's been around for a long time, then you download maybe MetaMask or some other kind of wallet. You kind of run through the setup process. You don't put a lot of thought into it, and you don't know that you should, right? You're not aware, even if maybe the setup tutorial tells you that the seed phrase is very important. We all know that most people don't read all of the instructions. They don't take the time to think it through. It's not because they're lazy. It's just, that's how we use most software on our computers, right? Like we're used to clicking the next button on every single thing. It doesn't mean we're bad people or stupid or whatever. It just means that, this is how people use computers. Right. So it is, like, my concern is it is very difficult to get to, 50 million, 100 million users of crypto and tell all of them, look, you need to be careful about this. I mean, yes, but how do we tell them that? Right. They're not, it's not like they're sitting around and listening. But if someone is watching this stream and they're thinking, okay, what can I do? Then I would say, think of a seed phrase like you think of power tools, like a drill, right? You're going to pick one up. You automatically have a switch in your brain that says, okay, right now I'm dealing with something that is a little more dangerous than just, a fork. I need to pay attention to what I'm doing. I need to, maybe I'm going to wear protective glasses. Maybe I'm going to, I'm going to move slowly. I'm going to move deliberately. I'm going to think about the steps that I'm doing, because otherwise I can hurt myself. I can hurt the people around me. And that is the way that people should think about seed phrases. Unfortunately, because they're written on a piece of paper, they look very unassuming and very, not dangerous. But I think if people can train themselves to always think, whenever the word, whenever the term seed phrase comes to mind, to always think, okay, this is a power tool. I have to be in a different state of mind. I have to stop everything else that I'm doing. I have to think very deliberately about what I'm going to do now. Then I think they can teach themselves to treat it with the, with the kind of the respect that it deserves. So that's like the number one tip that I would give people. Understand that the seed phrase is a very, very dangerous piece of information. Yeah, it is very, very easy to mishandle it and cause unrecoverable damage.
Yes.
So that's how I would refer to it.
And I really like the comparison you made, Udi, in the fact that we are no longer dealing with forks and butter knives anymore. So you need to understand that level of security and what you're stepping into, and really do your due diligence and take the time to educate yourself on some of the best practices and what your workflow within this space really means, because now you're handed these tools to take care of your hard-earned funds. So I appreciate the insights from the both of you. Is there any other, in terms of practical tips, is there anything else that you guys want to offer to our viewers at home before we wrap up? At home or in the office, wherever you guys would be from?
Sure. I mean, I would offer both, both for people who are thinking about doing this themselves and also to people who are recommending this to other people. Maybe this is because, again, I think our audience here is probably a step further than many of the people in their crypto journey. Maybe the best tip for them is to consider how they introduce this concept to new people when they help them on board. Try to remember back to how difficult it was for you to grasp the concept of a seed phrase for the first time, and understand that they don't get it. It's not necessarily as simple just saying, oh, just write on a piece of paper and store it. That's an easy action to do. Absolutely. But maintaining it for the long term, understanding the vast array of mistakes that you could make, that is not as easy. So I would recommend trying to think of that from kind of their point of view, and thinking about the mistakes they could be doing when talking to people about this topic.
Great point. And I think one thing that it hasn't been mentioned so far that you actually just mentioned was be familiar with some of the past mistakes people have been made, so you can be on the lookout for your own safety. Thanks, Udi. Quit, how about yourself?
Yeah, I would say the same. So one of the things that's special about this space, and I think what brings so many people into it, is that every day it changes. It's one of the fastest moving spaces out there.
Yep.
We're definitely at the frontier of something brand new. Yep. And that means that in order to keep up, you've got to stay involved. So I would argue that no matter how experienced you are, if you're brand new, absolutely take the time to learn and understand everything that you're interacting with. But even if you've been here for a while, don't get complacent. Keep learning, keep your head down, and just try to stay familiar with what's going on, how people get compromised. Make sure it doesn't happen to you, because honestly, the less we end up on the news, the better it is for everybody, right?
I think yes.
So that's number one, and then number two, I'd say don't roll your own security. So if you are planning to store your seed phrase in some fashion, look up best practices first. Don't come up with something on your own, because it's almost always going to backfire on you somehow.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate the insights from the both of you. I think it's been a great conversation so far, and with the practical tips that you've provided, etc., definitely offered some great insights to our viewers. So yeah, absolutely appreciate it. Now, viewers at home, we're moving on to our crypto box giveaway on Binance Live specifically. So if you're watching over on YouTube, please feel free to drop a little subscribe and comment, and head over to Binance Live and sign into your Binance account. So I would like to welcome up Mahmoud from Binance Academy, who's going to be offering the quiz. To take part, you'll need, like I mentioned, to be logged into your Binance account and tune into the show through Binance Live. So let's welcome Mahmoud to the show and let him tell you a little bit more about what's going on and how you can win our crypto box prize. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Tanisha. Yeah, I'm Mahmoud. I'm part of the Binance Academy team, which is basically the educational arm of Binance. So happy to be here, and just want to flag some important information regarding the crypto box giveaway. So it contains of 5 questions, all based on the topic of security. And you can take part by making sure that you are logged in on Binance Live. And the contest is available only on Binance Live. So if you are like on YouTube and you want to take part in the contest, you need to sign up on Binance Live by using the link in the description. To the rules itself, so we have 4,000 BUSD for grabs. The amount will be split equally between the winners. So you need to answer 5 out of 5 questions correctly to qualify. And later, if you do the quiz, you will see the question in the chat box, and then you can just select the right answer. We can have like maximum 400 winners, and time is important, so make sure that you are very, very fast. But before the actual quiz, I will introduce you to some of the great opportunities Binance offers when it comes to crypto education. So Binance is like much more than the trading platform you probably know. So we have like many different entities. So when it comes to, for instance, decentralization, we have BNB Chain, we have Trust Wallet, CoinMarketCap. When it comes to incubation and investment, we have like Binance Lab, and we have like also like a Launchpad. When it comes to education, we have Binance Academy, and we work like closely with Binance Research, as you can see in the follow-up slide, Binance Labs. So these are like different entities as well. So quickly to our partners. So as you can see, like from an educational standpoint, we follow a collaborative approach. So Binance Academy works closely with schools like from K-12 all the way to university level, governments, NGOs, and online learning platforms. And we want to empower people around us. So we want to empower community. And the best way to do it is by reaching out to leading institutions in the field, right? So if you go to the Binance Academy website, we have over 390 articles in over 25 different languages. So it really allows us to localize content in different countries and provide education from a foundational standpoint to even more of an in-depth topic. So it's really worth mentioning that we are not only focusing on teaching students that might already have like a little bit of background, I would say, in blockchain, but also those maybe do not have like an exposure yet to blockchain. So educating these students from a foundational standpoint and building these relationships with them is crucial to grow the industry. As mentioned earlier, we have a number of educational initiatives, and one of them are these crash courses. So these crash courses we provide, they are self-led, free to access for everyone with a Binance account, and they cover the fundamentals. So these are like perfect for beginners, or for those looking like for a quick refresher. Some examples can be like Blockchain 101, Crypto, DeFi, and Web3. And for those who are interested in trying out trading, we have also like some introduction to trading modules that cover like the key basis strategies and some high-level technical analysis. In addition to our crash courses, we also have the career certifications in development. So we have the one BNB Developer Certificate, and the certificate basically demonstrates your ability to develop, build, and deploy various projects, including DeFi, dApps, etc. And then we have also the Cryptocurrency Trader Certificate, and this program will prepare you to become a certified cryptocurrency trader by Binance Academy. So the certificate demonstrates your ability to perform all necessary functions as a cryptocurrency trader working in a professional trading environment. Here quickly, just a quick overview of what we offer. Like again, we just really focus on educations through our workshops. We also provide hackathons and offer mentorships, but I'm going to have a closer look on the next few slides. Quickly to our university tour. So we have been already like in 75 campuses around the world in 25 countries. And as part of this tour, we are representing some of the topics that will be contained in our crash courses, as the topics I've mentioned earlier. And the goal here again is to build like long-term relationship with students, academia on campus, and work with them on future workshops. You can see some cool snapshots that we did like at various universities during the workshops. Regarding our university outreach program, again, like we organize hackathons with student clubs, societies on campus. We offer Web3 incubation opportunities for student projects, and successful projects can receive like funding up to 1 million USD. We have knowledge, entrepreneurship competitions, and the most relevant right now is like our on-campus workshops and webinars that we are running across US, Europe, and MENA. And now, like my absolute favorite is the Student Campus Ambassador Program. So I'm sure that we have some students here as viewers. So you might ask yourself why you should apply for this program. So the idea quickly of this program is that you as a selected student ambassador will help run and deliver like entry-level workshops. So you'll also be responsible for organizing meetups with the student body and working on some educational research projects. Firstly, what are the advantages for you? So you're able to make a difference. So you as a student ambassador would be like sharing blockchain and Web3 education on your campus. You would also be sharing the information with all your friends. You will be learning as you teach, which is like super important. Secondly, you have the unique opportunity to develop career prospects. And lastly, you gain leadership experience. These are like the perks as well, like plenty of advantages again from the Student Ambassador Program, access to exclusive events, mentorship program, internship opportunities, and Web3 training and certificates. So any certificate that help you expand your skill set, you will be getting access to that. Yeah, so applications are open. You can scan the QR code if you see yourself as a Binance representative on your campus. And now it's the most exciting part, right, for you guys, the Crypto Box quiz. Just a quick reminder. So again, we have 5 questions, 5,000 BUSD for grabs. You need to answer 5 out of 5 questions correctly. And I think we can dive into it, right? So the very first question is, what is a seed phrase? So is it a collection of words that can be used to access your cryptocurrency wallet, a collection of words that can be used to delete your cryptocurrency wallet, words that can be used to access your fiat wallet, or is it big words that can be used to collect your cryptocurrency wallet? So make sure that you're very, very quick. So 6 seconds left. Yeah, it's the first one, correct. So now to the second question. What are the most secure ways to store your cryptocurrencies? Is it mobile applications? Is it checkbox, hot cold wallets, or none of the above? As you can see, they are pretty simple. So just make sure that you are very, very fast in answering it. Ten seconds left. So the correct answer is hot and cold wallets. So we have 3 more to go. What is another word that is associated with private key? Is it password, login, security code, or is it none of the above? So 15 seconds left. And the correct answer is password. Correct. It's the first one. Let's move forward to the fourth one. A DApp is short for DApp application, DeFi application, decentralized application, or distinguishable application. So I'm pretty sure that's also like a very easy one for you guys. So it's 5 seconds left. And it's obviously the third one. DApp stands for decentralized application. And now the last one. A hash function developed by the National Security Agency is used by many cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin. Is it Whale? Is it Soft Fork? SHA-256? Or is it Ledger? Ten seconds left. That's also an easy one. It's SHA-256. So I think we are done with the questions, right? So congrats on the winners.
Thank you, Mahmoud, and good luck to everyone that took part in the Crypto Box giveaway. I'd like to say a huge thank you to everyone who's tuned in today for our first Binance Talk session. None of it would be possible without the participation of our guests and community to help build such a constructive discussion. If you want to take part in our merch competition, it's your last chance to take a photo of your setup while you're still watching the show. Make sure to tweet them along with your key learnings for the 10 exclusive merch box giveaways. Winners for both competitions will be announced early next week. And as you guys all know so far, merch is one of our highly requested items. So make sure you get your tweet in quick. We'll be back soon with our next Binance Talk session on AI and Web3 on Thursday, March 16th, 2023. Just click the banner on the screen if you're watching on Binance Live for more info. Or if you're on YouTube, the live stream is set up in public for you to RSVP. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube as well. So until next time, my name is Tanisha, and we wish you a great start to your weekend and hope to stay safe with all the latest security tips that we shared today. Thank you guys for joining, and we'll see you next time.